All right, everyone. Thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Linebolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else, and what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. So our very special guest and feature titan for episode 268, all the way from Denver, Colorado, my good friend, Jeff Toomire. Jeff, it's an honor and a pleasure, my friend. I cannot
thank you for inviting me along, Greg. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, this is going to be so good, Jeff. And I've been very fortunate and lucky for me. I've had so many incredible conversations with Jeff, and whoa, just a wealth of knowledge, top notch when it comes down to just a brain in the industry. Making massive moves, Jeff, and I absolutely love what you do in the mortgage space and for all
you're making me blush.
Hey, everyone that knows you knows that there's the truth to that, and anybody who doesn't, I'm going to say in advance, you're all welcome. Here is Jeff Toomire. So, Jeff, I do want to start with really your origin story, kind of telling everybody out there who maybe doesn't know you yet, where you came from, what got you into the business, kind of your progression to your career to today. I'd love to jump in.
Yeah, I've kind of had a funny start. I grew up in Huntington Beach, California, and lived there most of my life. I've lived in Denver for the last 4 years. But I got in the business in 2021. I was involved in marketing and some phone room sales when I was younger. And anyway, got into mortgage in 2021, became a loan officer, originated for 3 or 4 years, became a manager at some point. Started pretty early on in my career, started my own company. My partner and I, we opened up, for those of you guys that can remember way back in the days, a Novastar Net branch. And that ultimately became a mortgage bank. We were a full legal FHA mortgage sponsored entity for 2005 to 2010. Probably the greatest years of my career, not the greatest years, is obviously 2008 and 7 and 8 weren't fun, but it was a massive learning experience. And I think it's brought me to where I'm at today. Everybody says you learn more from mistakes and failure than the successes. And there's no question we had failures in 2008 and we learned a lot and became a better person for it, became a better manager for it. And I think a better mortgage person overall. So the last, ever since 2010, we shut the company down, went back into origination for a couple of years, pretty much immediately got back into management. I was a producing branch manager for about 5 or 6 years before I got into the vice president, regional manager type of role, which is what I do now. And honestly, it's what I love. I don't know that I would ever move into another role or take an additional promotion. I just really love what I do and who I do it with. I love dealing with referral partnerships, financial planners, CPAs, attorneys. I really love working with loan officers and cultivating brand new loan officers into producers, or even people who are currently producing and just giving them a better life and a better structure to be able to master their craft. So it's what I do now. It's what I love. And that's where we're at today.
Jeff, I love the lead up into progression, and again, from production to leadership and mentorship, and obviously pouring so much value into other loan officers' growth and success, and just working your way up to, that leadership sort of scenario. I do want to take you back because you jumped right in, and I like to give people as much detail because I think that it's always interesting to ask the question as to what was your thought, 20 some odd years ago, Jeff. And there's so many different roles and places that you could have gone down, and occupations that you could have dominated into that realm. So in the back of your mind, what was it 20 some odd years ago? Why the mortgage industry? What was it back then?
Money.
Okay.
Money. I went to school when I was younger to be a paramedic. That was my goal. I was a lifeguard for 7 years in Huntington. Actually worked for Newport Fire for about 6 months.
Wow.
And then realized it just wasn't the right fit for me. Financially, I wasn't going to be able to reach my financial goals in that sector. And I was working part-time for a sales organization. The guys were doing really, really well. And so from a financial perspective, I decided to make the switch. And then I got in at a great time. I mean, it was just, the 2000s was probably the best time to ever be in the mortgage industry. For a lot of different reasons. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of money. I mean, you had, I made amazing friends. They're still friends of mine today. It was a great time. Obviously it was ugly in 7 and 8 when it kind of all fell apart. But there were some good things that came out of that too. For me, I mean, I love originating and I like being involved, in the process. I still originate today. I just don't originate nearly what I used to, because you can't possibly originate $5-6 million a month of production or more and run a team or run a region. You're not going to give the people that are underneath you, that are working for you and with you, the kind of support that they need. So I made the decision in about 2014 that I was going to tailor back on my personal production to be able to better support the people that I worked with, and it paid off in spades. A lot of people that have worked for me, we still talk, or they still work for me, and so it's like I said, that's been my passion. I mean, I feel like if you're not passionate about what you do, you're just not going to be good at it, or you're not going to enjoy it. And so, there's nothing like taking a guy that's brand spanking new to $200,000 a year, or someone who's doing, 2 or 3 deals a month and turning them to 10 deals a month. That feeling's amazing. And it develops a lifelong relationship. It develops a stickiness, quite frankly. We don't want our real estate agents leaving us. We also don't want our loan officers leaving us. And so you've got to create that value proposition as a leader to be able to keep people sticky, not just because you've got good rates or good terms or whatever product and program is out there, but you're creating an absolute value to them. You're helping them either build their business, maintain their business. You're helping them with support, training, whatever it may be. Everybody's a little bit different, but I enjoy that component of the business, which is why I stuck with it.
I think that's huge, Jeff. And again, thanks for the candid nature, really what got you into the business. And I know you on a personal note, and that has shifted and molded over time, to really pouring value and to helping people grow and scale and live the lives that they're really anticipating, which is fantastic into that mentality. And I know that you are a part of an elite group of individuals who are on the highest tier of really pouring into others and really just bringing that value prop. So any loan officer that's tuning into this right now and they're thinking, okay, I understand, Jeff's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt and really worked his way up, helped so many people, but let's get down to some nitty gritty. I mean, what is your MO or your main kind of standpoints to providing value? So if I'm here as listening to this, I want to work with Jeff. If it makes sense, what does that look like?
I believe in top-down management. So I believe that the owner of the company works for me. I believe that I work for the loan officer. I believe that the loan officer works for his team. If you have that mentality, it's just it goes throughout your whole organization and makes everybody more empowered. They enjoy coming to work. And there's nothing worse than waking up in the morning and not wanting to go to work.
Oof.
So it's important that we keep, our entire structure, our entire team in that mindset. The loan officer assistants, they need to be happy and they need to be well paid. The processors need to be paid and they need to have a good relationship with the loan officers. Mm-hmm. Same thing with our ops team on the underwriting side, the closing side. So, value proposition is huge to me. But that thought of, I consider myself, when you're looking at a professional athlete and a coach, mm-hmm. Nowadays, the athletes are the ones running the show. And really in our business, we're recruiting. No different than, recruiting an athlete, we're recruiting loan officers and we're bringing them over and they're coming for a reason. They're going to, if they want to win a championship, if they want to make more money, if they want to have more success, if they want to have more support, we provide that environment. And we also, I don't take everybody. I mean, there are loan officers that aren't going to be a good fit. If you're screaming and yelling at your processors all the time, it's not going to be a good fit. I mean, we've got to be respectful of one another. We have an amazing team, so that doesn't really happen. But I've had loan officers before that just thought that they, were everything, and everybody around them had to do what they do, and everybody was working for them. And that in our environment, that mentality doesn't work. So loan officers that work for me or work with me, they know that really I'm working for them. My job every day is to wake up and make sure that their job is either easier, more proficient, they're making more money. A lot of what I do is business development. I mean, I do a lot of biz dev where I'm actually introducing agents or relationships, financial planning firms, whatnot, to my loan officers. Either relationships that I've developed myself or, where the loan officer needs me to come in and assist them in closing the deal. I probably spend about 30-40% of my time on business development, which goes through social media and everything else as well. But it's a big component. My belief is that, and branding, we're probably going to talk about this, but
Sure.
the loan officer should be branded. Nobody cares who the company is. It's the loan officer. People don't come work for, my company. They come and work for me because they want to be on my team with my structure and the people that we've brought together that are going to make their lives easier. It's the same thing with me when choosing a company. The company needs to do what I need them to do, which is really stay out of my way, provide me with good rates, provide me with good service, underwriting, closing, do all the functions that they need to do, and then allow me to handle the sales side of things and make my team more powerful because of it. And I think that's invaluable. And I've had some good and bad experiences over the years.
Sure.
But the best experiences have been those companies that have great leadership. They see the vision. They believe in business development. They believe in empowering the loan officers, and that helps me do my job a lot. Makes my job a lot easier.
And that's huge transparency into that, Jeff, which I love again. And I've talked to several of your team, and they're just forever grateful. You really going above and beyond. You're not just saying that because it sounds nice. You're actually walking that talk. Which is fantastic because most situations are not that way. The way that you care and give for the people that you work with is top notch. It really is setting the standard extremely high, and you just don't know until you know. Unfortunately, there's a lot of mortgage professionals who are just stuck in their environment,
For sure.
they're just unaware that there are people like you out there.
Well, it could be painful to make a change, and so that's an issue. It's, when I am recruiting. It's one of the main things I have to deal with, which is, making that transition. And it's the devil, So maybe their company isn't great, but they're like, I get deals done. It's not too bad. My systems aren't too bad. And there are better opportunities out there, but I say this to everybody that I've ever met. I know guys and girls that are at every single company that hate the company. I know people that love the company. And how can you have the same company have two completely different dynamics or different mindsets? It's because of the team that person is on. And so that is what's more important than the company itself, is the team that you're on, the structure that you have, the file flow that you have. That's why you see people who are successful in certain companies and other people fail there. So you got to make sure you're with a good group, on a good team, and have good, support, behind you. Not just programs and products and pricing. That's all really important. But I think the team development and the business development, you can be the greatest loan officer in the world. If you're not bringing in any deals, you're worthless. So, having somebody who's going to really help you with your business development, I think is key. And we do that well. When I got into the business in 2010, I was doing consumer direct for the first 10 years.
Okay.
So in 2010, I started basically over again doing residential retail. And I built my business by working with financial planners and CPAs, and I generated business from them that I then turned around and handed out to my realtor partners. And that's what helped me create those relationships. And so that's a big component of what we do, is create that value proposition, making sure that we're handing deals out to our partners as well as them handing deals to us. And that's how you really create a sticky relationship and it generate a lot more money. And you can choose the partners you want to work with, instead of begging agents for business, which, let's face it, no loan officer wants to do that.
Definitely not. And Jeff, this better than most. At the end of the day, the top tier referral partners or real estate agents, they're looking for top class partners. They're not looking for handouts. They're not looking for, somebody who's just going to provide a little bit of support. It's what you're really doing hand in hand and partnering. So I guess I would love to get your perspective on that, Jeff, because you're so deep into this topic. You truly partner with everyone that you work with in association. And I know you teach your team the same way. So for any of the real estate professionals that are tuning into this, because the majority are residential realtors that are diving into this
Sure.
show. Thank you so much, by the way, everybody who's tuning in with this live or after the fact. What would you say from your perspective, Jeff, from the mortgage industry and the relationship between the loan officer and the real estate agent, and what you guys, not just what you and your team brings to the table, but maybe some misnomers or
look, I'm glad you're bringing this up. I've said this since I got in residential retail. The relationship between the realtor and the loan officer has been broken And I don't know how it's going to get fixed. I mean, we have great relationships with great real estate agents
Oh yeah.
and other referral partners. But there we have just as many that are still broken. Even when we work with them, we try to show them, what we're trying to do. Look, every agent's a little bit different. Some agents want business development. They want us to help them generate leads. Other agents need more physical support. Maybe they're not very good at sales. And so we're literally selling a listing. So when we get an offer is made, we're calling the listing agent and we're selling the borrower and why our borrower should be selected, talking about the financing, talking about their credit, whatever it is that's a benefit. There's not a lot of loan officers that do that. I've been preaching it since the day I started. I still can't believe when people don't do it, but you should be talking to every listing agent and saying, here's what we're bringing to the table here. That way they know that at least the loan process is going to go smoothly. They know that the loan officer they're going to be able to reach out to and get a hold of. Communication is key. And there's some basics. Look, you got to have good communication. You've got to have a good workflow. You've got to have good pricing. And you got to have every product and program that's available, right?
Wow.
Those are standard. The next level is, if I've got an agent who's got a ton of leads, I've got loan officers that will work those leads. They don't all become deals right away. Maybe some of them have credit issues. Maybe they've had a recent foreclosure, or they just aren't in a financial position to be able to qualify. But we work with that person and caress that lead for 6, 7, 8, 10 months. And then when they're ready to go, we hand it back to the agent and say, hey, listen, Mr. Smith is ready to go. It's like, oh, wow, okay, cool. I forgot about him. So, not all agents want us to do that, but there are different levels of things that we do. And we have that sit down meeting with our agents in the beginning to find out what their shortcomings are. Wow. and maybe where they're strong. And we figure out which way we can benefit them the most. And in some cases, I'll make different introductions. I've got loan officers that are better at different things. Bilingual, for example. I mean, obviously, if you're a bilingual loan officer or real estate agent and you have, a quarter of your clients come in and they would prefer to speak Spanish, it's a lot more. I mean, it makes sense that you'd have a bilingual loan officer.
Sure.
So we have bilingual loan officers. We've got bilingual team members, both assistants and processors, to be able to handle those types of clients. But that's really what's important, is figuring out what the best fit is going to be. Most loan officers make the initial introduction. We've got systems where we're looking for agents that we want to work with and we're reaching out. But builders are the same way. Obviously, different partners that we can work with that have, financial planners and CPAs who have clients we can work with. We're developing those relationships so we can generating leads is the best way to develop a lasting relationship.
And Jeff, there's so much dynamic to all that you mentioned. And again, it's just that value proposition that's not only done internally for the team and loan officers that you're growing and nurturing to be the most successful individuals that they can, but you do that with your partners. And it's always pushing the envelope to say, how can we take this further, make it smoother, make it faster, everyone growing as a team, as a unit. And again, there's very few people that do it at the level that you do it at, Jeff. This is
well, really I'll give you a good example. I had a great example from just a couple nights ago. I was in Palm Springs, and my Uber driver asked me what I did. And I said, I'm in the mortgage industry. He said, I'm looking, I need to finance a second home here pretty soon. It's funny. He's an Uber driver that owns like 6 properties.
That's awesome.
But anyway, I said, well, who are you using for lending? And he's like, I've got a loan officer. I would never use anybody else. And anytime I hear that, I think, okay, well, why is that? He says, I hear from the guy at least a couple times a year. He reaches out just to say hello. He's always been very respectful. He's always given me information I've needed. He's always given me, good service when I use him. But the fact that he reaches out to me a couple times a year, I just appreciate that. And it's something that we preach, but it's one of those things you can lead a horse to water. You can't force him to drink. I still have loan officers that don't do a good enough job with that. We have systems in place that help them, but it's something that we constantly are, on top of, making sure that they're doing it. And you'll always hear loan officers saying, hey, I called this client the other day, I haven't talked to him in 6 months, and he had a referral for me. If you hadn't made that phone call, that wouldn't have happened. So you got to be doing that on a regular basis without, going overboard. And you don't want to be sending out emails that aren't important to them, but there are tools that you can use to keep you in contact at least a couple times a year. And I encourage everybody to do that as part of our training process. But that would be another good example.
Yeah, this is huge though, Jeff, because again, the true professionals, they never leave the basics. And as production ramps up, individuals can get away from what got them to that height.
Absolutely.
It's just a sad reality of the situation, but you are a true practitioner. And then, but again, even bringing it to the note, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's so true. And I think that there's a culture there, and people throw that around quite a bit, but leadership is a very important thing when it comes down to guiding and taking advice from people who have been there. And again, you had mentioned athletes, and I think the same thing, the top tier athletes on the planet, they all have coaches. They all have trainers, right? They have someone.
It's so funny. It's so funny you bring that up.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at some of these loan officers that either I've recruited or they work for me now. And I talk about coaching and they're like, I just don't have time. You look at these athletes, they don't have coaches. They have 6 coaches.
Oh yeah.
They're the best people in the world, and they're practicing all the time and they're training all the time. And they've got a life coach and they've got a strength coach and they've got this coach and that coach. You have to have somebody outside of your dynamic, and I do coaching for my team.
Yep.
But I'm not the only person. I mean, you got to have outside coaching as well, in my opinion. I still coach on almost an annual basis, where I have, whether it's recruiting coaching or life coaching or business coaching or financial coaching. It's good to have that. It's like going to masterminds and things like that, where you pick up 1 or 2 things and you're like, and I know I need to be doing that. And now I'm going to put it on my list of things to do. And so, yeah, you've got to be constantly educating yourself and coaching yourself, or getting outside support. I personally get outside support. I need to have my butt kicked a little bit, both in the gym as well as in business. And, it just keeps you accountable. So accountability is a big deal. There's a lot of coaching programs I don't think are very good, but they do a good job because they keep people accountable. I mean, anybody can say, make 10 calls a day and you'll be successful. And the reality is, if you make 10 calls a day, you will have more success than the person who doesn't.
Right.
Some people need somebody standing over there and saying, make those calls, make those calls. Other people are self-sufficient, but we've got to, we like to figure out what we're dealing with, and then we put people in the right positions to be successful. I mean, it's so important. I'm glad you brought that up.
It's beautiful, Jeff. And this is great. And this leads really, really nicely into the favorite segment of Titans, which is everyone tunes in to learn from the best and the brightest. Really, Jeff, you've been there, you've done that, you bought the t-shirt, you have 20 plus years in the business to reflect back on, even currently into today. So if you could look back at your career thus far and pick or choose 1 or 2 things that you added or implemented or really applied that you saw forward momentum, positive growth or movement in the needle, what would that be? What advice would you give to the loan officer that's tuning into this now to help them grow, to help them scale? And I know you've already dropped a bunch of nuggets, but anything that comes out to mind would be great.
My number one thing that I have sold since, I mean, I didn't learn this on my own. I mean, half these things you and I are talking about are things we learn from mentors over time, right? Value proposition. You have got to create a value proposition, or what are you doing? You can't walk in and say, hey, I've got great rates and great programs and the best rates. Well, if you say you have the lowest rates in town, you're going to have people coming to you saying, hey, I want the best rate every single time. And no one's going to be the best every single time. And you're going to be going down to the common denominator every time. You've got to be competitively priced. There's just no question about it. But you've got to have a value proposition. And it's not the same thing for everybody. So you've got to figure out what that is. I know people who, they host a lot of events. And so they generate leads through hosting events. People who are really involved in social media, who are helping their agents with social media. There's 10 different things I could think of at the top of my head, but you've got to create a value proposition. You've got to have a good workflow. If you're going to do 10, 12 deals a month, you better be working inside of a CRM or some sort of system that keeps you accountable and reminds you, when it's a good time for someone to refinance, or it's been, 180 days for a VA loan, or whatever the case may be for a refinance. You've got a client who had a foreclosure a year ago, and when that foreclosure is going to cease, so you can refinance them into a conventional loan. And there's a million things you need to have that automated support for. I don't think anything can get rid of the phone. I mean, being there and available and, visual for your clients is really important, and for your referral partners, but you've got to have automation in your system, in your flow as well, to make your life easier and more efficient. And so that you're not working 20 hours a day.
But as you mentioned, workflow, automation, And most importantly, into that realm is the value proposition, or to differentiate yourself from other options, other opportunities for consumer base, but also to other professionals as far as agents. Jeff, this is something that I've taken point first person perspective from your team is, once again, you going above and beyond the people that you work with. And it's easy for us to say, hey, you need a value proposition. But if I'm tuning into this, I'm like, Jeff, well, I don't know. That's where somebody, a top tier trainer, mentor, or someone like yourself gives hands-on experience to say, let's develop your value proposition together.
Absolutely.
Let's set you up.
Yeah, I mean, your younger guys need help with that for sure. Even people who have been in it for a while. I mean, like I said, I go to the mortgage mastermind pretty much every year, and you'll, I mean, it's a lot of the same thing again and again and again, but you'll pick up things every single time and you'll be like, man, I got to start implementing that, or even things that you remembered. And it's like, I've let that slide and I need to re-implement that. It's important that you do that you've got to continually educate yourself. And not just with, books about, leadership, and those are good, but you need to, find out what people in the business are doing. We do a good job with, talking with people throughout the country that are on our team or within our company that are having success, and have those masterminds so that we know, what other people are doing in different markets that are seeing success, and we can implement those things, into our market. Again, whether those be events or lead generation or anything like that, things could pop up from time to time that other people might be using that become effective, especially at different times. I mean, obviously refinances were dead last year. We're going to see that change quite a bit over the next 12 to 24 months. And you've got to be on top of it or you're going to lose business. And so, it's nice to have a team behind you that's doing a lot of that data gathering and figuring out, what are the best practices right now. And we do a lot of that. That way we can tell our loan officers, hey, this is working and this is working and this is working. Which one do you want to do? That way they can pick and choose what's going to work best for them. So it's just like developing a business plan when you're starting a company, or, developing a plan, when you're on a team, the coach has a huddle, this is what you're going to do, X's and O's. You've got to have a plan in place and then be able to implement on that plan. And it's nice to have a coach or somebody who's holding you accountable, or they're, covering your back when you need, additional support.
I love it. And again, it's not every situation is created equal. And it's just nice and refreshing to hear that there are professionals that really do care and that go above and beyond, Jeff. And again, you pour in so much value into the real estate community, to referral partners, to internal through loan officers. But once again, you're going a step above. I want to mention a shameless plug for your podcast. So I'm super excited about it. And I would love to get your perspective as kind of why you started it, what it's about, but the Mortgage Insanity podcast. So let's talk about your show and kind of what it's about, and let the audience know.
So, honestly, I mean, you and I have, spoken for years about this, and, I don't like to be in the spotlight. I didn't want to do podcasts. I've never done a ton of social media. I pushed my people to do it because I'm not advertising myself. Toomire Group was my label back in the day, but I don't advertise Toomire Group anymore.
Sure.
So I'm not labeling myself, but the podcast is something I just felt passionate about and wanted to do because, Mortgage Insanity it's not just about mortgage insanity, it's all about real estate insanity as well. But it's the fact that, most real estate agents just suck. And, you talk to a real estate agent and you tell them, hey, what do you think about real estate agents? They're going, oh yeah, they're terrible. Because they hate them even more than others because they have to deal with them all the time.
Sure.
Most real estate agents are terrible. But you've got whether it be 5% or 10% that are amazing and they're pros and they run a business like a business. You ask most agents why they got in the business. It's because I want to make a lot of money. I didn't want to work very hard. I want to have a boss. Well, that's not a good recipe for success. And when you talk to top producing agents, it's the opposite. They work, a lot of hours, especially in the beginning of their career. But they've developed really good teams. They've developed good systems. They're running a business like it's a business, not like it's a part-time job. So we have developed and are continuing to develop relationships with real estate agents all over the country in areas that we serve. And we are putting them through the process to make sure that we're, happy to refer clients to them. Because I mean, the biggest concern a real estate agent has in referring a loan to us is, are they going to do a good job? Are they going to take care of my client? Are they going to give them a good deal? And when you're using somebody for the first time, there's a big trust factor there, or, a lack of trust, and you need to earn that trust over time. So we're doing the same thing. And the other component to the podcast is there's no kickbacks, right? When we refer a deal out to an agent, we're not getting any money kicked back to us. They're not kicking us any money. We're not kicking them any money. We're simply giving them that referral because we know that they dominate that area. They're going to give great service. In most cases, we've negotiated some discounts for the client, like a free appraisal or whatever. And we know they're going to be treated with kid gloves. More importantly, because if they screw that deal up, they're not going to get another referral from us. And so it's better to get a referral than it is to get a lead or a deal from somebody. So, it's been very powerful throughout my career, generating referrals and handing those referrals out to my partners. And we are just going to we're going to throw gasoline on the fire with this podcast just to generate more consumers, more referrals, and then identify the agents in the areas that we want to work. And then those agents will get like, for example, if I've got an agent in Huntington Beach, California, or Newport Beach, California, or, Parker, Colorado, or Denver, Colorado, or wherever, they're going to be getting all the deals, all the leads that we get in those areas. And these aren't leads. These are deals. These are people who've been pre-qualified. They're pre-approved. They want to buy a $700,000 house. They're putting down 10%. Here you go, Mr. Agent. Just find this person a home. Or, this person needs to list their home and they're going to buy another property. Those are the deals that we're handing out. And so, for anybody that's watching this, that's a real estate agent, wants to reach out and inquire, we can go through that process to determine whether you're going to be a good fit for the referrals that we're handing out.
Perfect. Yeah, no, Jeff, that's huge. And again, I'm super excited that you're launching the podcast and shedding light on the industry on both sides of that, from the perspective of the real estate agent, from the mortgage professional. But I've been very fortunate to have several conversations with you, Jeff, and I love your deep knowledge and just sharp perspective about what's actually going on, despite media, despite what is hearsay, just the facts, the truth, the real knowledge out there. So I'm a fan of the show myself, and I will continue to be, as well as it continues to roll out. When can people expect kind of timeframes, that sort of thing? Just in general, so that they can kind of tune in. I'll put stuff in the show notes too. What are the thoughts for Mortgage and Sandals?
Yeah, so it's going to be a weekly podcast. We just went through a transition, and so we had an acquisition. So in about 2 or 3 weeks, we'll start rolling it out again every week. But for anybody who wants to reach out to me directly, they can just email me or call me, shoot me a text, and I'll provide the information. And then I'll continue to throw the information out through you. As we're having new podcasts, but it'll be a weekly podcast over the next 30 days.
Love it. This will be huge. And I encourage everybody, and we'll put everything in the show notes as well, but please tune into this man. Trust me when I tell you, wealth of knowledge, extremely powerful messaging. And again, whether you're a loan officer or a real estate professional, tons of takeaways and information that you can really utilize and grow and scale business. So highly, highly recommend that for sure. At the end of the day, Jeff, as I mentioned this kind of in closing, with everything here, if there is a loan officer, mortgage professional that's out there that is watching this live with us now, or they tuned in to the podcast via audio, or they're watching it on any video syndication, and they like what they heard, they're like, man, I really like Jeff. I really, really want to get to know more. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you and connect in a meaningful way to learn more about potentially working with you?
Yeah, so I'm never going to get, my region's never going to be larger than 30 loan officers.
Gotcha.
I want to do about 60 million a month in production with 30 loan officers. If I get much bigger than that, I'm not going to be able to give the individual support that I need. I want to be at that number because I want my loan officers averaging at least 2 million a month. Sure, I'm going to have guys doing 5, 6, 7 million a month, and I'm going to have some people that maybe are only doing 1 million because they just don't want to do more, or maybe they just don't have the time for it, but they're really good loan officers. So that's where I want to be. Okay. If they're really interested in reaching out to me, they can call me directly. My cell phone number is 949-929-5507. You can provide them with my email address as well. They can reach me out through social media. I've got a team that will bring them in and kind of give them all the information that we provide. We'll obviously want to meet face to face with any partner or loan officer that we're ever thinking about, bringing on board. Right now, I oversee Arizona, California, and Colorado, primarily Southern California. But we're branching out into Utah and Oklahoma as well. But I have worked with loan officers in other states, and it can work out really, really well if they are really driven and they follow the path. I have loan officers that literally, within the first year made $400,000. They hadn't done more than a deal or two for the first couple of years of their business.
Wow.
I've had other loan officers that were, in the business for 3 or 4 years and doubled and tripled their business. I have loan officers that, were doing 2 or 3 deals when they started with me, and they're still doing 2 or 3 deals with them because they just didn't follow the program. But they're good loan officers. So I'm not going to force somebody to, if you don't want to do 10, 12 deals a month, we're not going to force you to do that. But the opportunity is there, and we're going to give you the tools and the resources. And then it's up to you to make the magic happen. But we will be there by your side to help you, guide you, and remain and keep that focus in place so that you can be successful if you want to reach that goal.
Wow. Hey, everybody, you heard it right from the man himself. Jeff, I can't thank you enough, my friend, for taking the time. You're dropping so much knowledge, applicable information for takeaways for any side, of the transaction that way. And again, just so gracious giving your contact info. And I encourage everybody to subscribe to the podcast, to reach out to Jeff, really see what Jeff and the team are doing in a big way. Lots of inspiring things out there on the market. So again, my friend, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. It's been a pleasure.
Greg, I appreciate the time as well. And I appreciate you plugging the podcast.
Anytime.
We're excited about the future. 2022 was a rough year for a lot of people, and we had to do a lot of downsizing, but we are obviously going to grow again. Everybody knows how the business operates. Rates will start to drop. We've got some great relationships with builders and real estate companies that are going to start to grow and flourish. We're excited about adding new talent, both on the operational side as well as on the sales side. So I'd love to hear from any of the loan officers that are watching the podcast, and I'd be open to any referral partners that feel like they'd be a good fit and want to receive referrals from us. That would be great. So thank you for everything, Greg. You've been awesome. Love you as a friend and as a professional, man. You're the best. Thank you.
Likewise, Jeff. The honor and pleasure is all mine, my friend. I really mean that. And I do have to dub you an official real estate titan. That is an honor that you carry forever. There's no plaque, there's no trophy, but it is in your heart. So it's yours, Jeff.
Awesome. I love it, man. Well, hey, listen, we'll see each other soon in person, and we'll talk soon.
Love it. Love it. And everybody, thank you as always for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like what we're doing with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like and subscribe. You know what to do at this point. I do have to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lionbolt Media. If you are a real estate professional looking to grow and scale your digital business, really generating a brand, lead generation, conversion, close transactions, visit lionboltmedia.com to take your digital marketing to the next level. We are live here on Real Estate Titans every Tuesday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. Catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care. Thanks, Jeff.
You're the man, Greg. Thank you, sir.